when you interview a therapist, ask them what they do on a daily basis for their mental health. And if they just give you like, well, I kind of meditate in the shower and no. What are they doing every day to change, to evolve? And when's the last time they saw a therapist? Do they believe in their own profession?
Are you curious about discovering ways of making your life better? Then welcome to my podcast. I'm Bob Nickman, and this is The Exploding Human. Listen in while I talk with all kinds of people in the fields of personal growth, health and healing, alternative therapies, psychology, spirituality, environment, and the future. I'm looking for those answers that make life better for everyone. You'll meet cutting-edge practitioners, doctors, artists, filmmakers, business people, and those who have overcome challenges. The brave, the curious, anyone who is out there helping us humans to explore, expand, and explode. Hey, welcome to The Exploding Human. My name is Bob Nickman. My guest today is Buddhist therapist JOE DENICHOLAS, and we're going to be talking about the low success rate of therapy. This is the second episode Joe has done with me, and we wanted to talk about some of the obstacles to successful therapy, the three categories being the therapy itself, the client, and the therapist, and all the variables in between, and some of the challenges in creating an environment of safety and dealing with prior belief systems of the client and the therapist, and the balance in that relationship between caring and relative objectivity and a healthy separation between therapist and client. Joe also discusses what he believes a therapist should and should not be in order to gain optimal results. And we also get into a discussion about mortality and the power of being aware of that in life and in a therapeutic situation. So let's jump in. This is JOE DENICHOLAS. Morning, Joe. Thanks for being on the show again. We had a great time, our first outing, and we decided we wanted to do something else. So, folks, I've probably done this in the intro already, but we're going to talk about the low success rate of therapy with a successful therapist.
That's debatable.
Yeah, well, it is.
Depending on who you ask.
Yes. And why do we want to cut your own throat today?
Right. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here. As always, I so enjoy these conversations, and I think it's a very important topic because I think, everybody agrees. It's kind of fascinating. 9 out of 10 people don't agree that the earth is round, but 9 out of 10 people agree that we are in the middle of a mental health crisis.
Yeah.
So that's like that means like we're pretty sure something bad is going on, and so we're kind of in an all hands on deck situation here.
Boy, it does feel like that.
Yeah.
It feels like it more when you talk to people. Less when you're alone.
Right. But yeah, everybody can kind of feel we're in some kind of slide that we don't really know how to stop. And I always say, when people ask me like, well, how would you stop it? And I say, everyone just needs to stop looking outside of themselves and look at how am I contributing to what's going on and deal with it. And oftentimes dealing with it means getting some help dealing with it. Because certainly you can read therapy books and self-help books and all of that. And, I wrote a book and it's okay. But a lot of it's like, how long do you want this to take? And how many mistakes do you want to make along the way? There is an advantage to going and talking with someone. And there's some things that therapy can do for you that you can't do on your own. You literally just cannot do as somebody alone. And we'll get into some of that later, I suspect.
Yeah. Well, the reason I have enjoyed the therapy I've done in various kinds, and that's kind of a lot of what this show's about, and we'll talk about that too, that what you're really paying for is having as close to an objective party that is not emotionally tied to you or involved with you in your daily life, that has some sort of training, good, bad, or in the middle somewhere, that that can point things out that you can't do. You can't do it yourself, as you were just saying. So let's start with the idea of, and I'll tell you my opinion.
Mm.
successful therapy. Now, the ultimate to me in successful therapy is I feel really good. I don't really need this anymore. That's the ultimate. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's varying degrees to all the way down to I'm addicted to this and I really have to do it all the time.
Right. Right.
Which to me is not really, that's sort of unsuccessful in a way. And that might, but and then the time frame, I mean, that could take a number of years depending on who the person is and what's the past is and all that kind of stuff. So how is it determined successful or unsuccessful in your mind?
So that's the first very challenging aspect of this is, the literature says that therapy by itself is about 30% effective. Psychotropic medications are about 30% effective on their own. If you combine them, you can get close to 50% effective. But again, define efficacy, like define effective.
Yeah, right.
In those studies, they typically say if the person has not, it's a very medical model, right? And so when they define success as you no longer meet criteria in the DSM, and if you continue to not meet criteria, you haven't had a relapse or regression in a year after therapy, then they would say that therapy was successful. But as you know, just because you don't meet full criteria in the DSM doesn't mean you're well or happy or peaceful or free of stress. And so it really comes down to, there's lots of difficulties in how do you measure that? I mean, obviously it's how objective can you be and you measure that? You ask people, are you feeling better? Yeah, I'm feeling better. Okay, well, we'll mark that down. But there's lots of bias there. And so it's a very unscientific process that they measure that. And so even with the what I would consider a relatively low bar, it's still like we're only 30% effective at helping people not be clinically unwell, which means it's really affecting their lives.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That is already I came from engineering. And so part of me says, I'm kind of Johnny come lately. Who am I to have an opinion about this? But I actually think that's one of my strengths is I come from an engineering background that looks at this and says, these are abysmal numbers. And I don't know too many therapists that are happy with these numbers. We're all trying to figure it out. And so I've really spent a lot of time enjoying a mind that can really dive into what is the root cause of these situations, because that's what I did as an engineer. Yeah. I've done that to therapy. What is actually going on? Looking at neuroscience and looking at the therapist, looking at the treatments, looking at the clients. What is going on that we're not even better than 30%, even when we don't have a very high bar of what that 30% even means?
Of course, if you're a baseball player, that's a really high score.
Right.
If you're batting 300.
If you're batting 300, you're crushing it, right? You're two standard deviations above the mean, actually. Yeah. So I follow baseball a lot, so I know those data.
Well, yeah. I mean, and then, there's sort of another idea of it to me, which is this idea that life is kind of a constant series of predicaments in various areas. And then to be able to increase your manageability level, that's a big success to me. If you're somebody who moves through life and it's very unmanageable and things just, you can't function in, relationships and work and all these other areas, that's not great. But then if you up that to where somebody's life is pretty manageable, they're working, they're enjoying some of what they do. I mean, nobody enjoys 100% of what they do. It's impossible. Right. Because it's called work.
It's called work. Right.
Which is fine, because I think there's another piece that some of us don't want to look at, which is that stress and resistance is actually good for growth. There's something very helpful about that. It's like if you want to build muscle, in the gym or wherever you do, you need resistance training. So there is a certain amount of that built in. And I think if you take that away from people, there's a missing feeling. I know I've had that when I don't have anything like that. I'm like, oh man,
Hmm.
this doesn't feel like I'm doing anything.
Right.
Um,
Growth requires friction of some kind.
so you need you need a little bit
Hmm.
of that.
Hmm.
So what's that balance, and then
Hmm.
there's this idea of we're not owed, I guess maybe owed or deserve for sure, um, a certain feeling of freedom and joy by being alive. And a lot of people
Hmm.
don't feel that they deserve that or
Hmm.
warrant
Hmm.
it, or they don't
Hmm.
even know what it is because they've never
What
had.
it is, yeah, where is that found? And what does that look like? Right. I
Yeah.
often ask people when they say, I want peace of mind or contentment. And I say, what is that? And sometimes they'll say, I don't know. Or they'll say, it's the absence of anything bothering me.
Yeah. Right.
Like, is that like, that's not a human life. We're not, right? And so I spend a lot of time talking to people about, especially up front in the therapeutic process of like, what's the goal here? And I have to remind people, um, your brain was formed by evolution and it has one primary objective: keep the species going, because that's what evolution drives.
Yeah.
That's what its objective is. And so the most complicated machine that the universe or God, whatever your belief system is, ever created, as far as we know, we are trying to make it achieve things that it was not designed to do. Because many of the ways that it protects us actually run counter to peace and happiness.
Yeah. Yes.
Right? Being anxious, that is not peaceful to be, but the more hyper vigilant you are, you know what? Your brain doesn't mind that you do that. You're reducing risk. So, you can't sleep at night, but as long as you're sleeping some, it's okay. Um, and so that's where I kind of remind people, like, we're not going to get rid of the fact that things are going to bother us every day. We can't stop our mind from classifying things as negative and positive, and it just kind of does that. And and yes, if you get into advanced meditation methods, of course, you can shift your mind into very amazing spaces where that kind of gets dropped. But in our day-to-day lives, come on,
Right.
we all know what's happening. And so we're going to have ordinary aversion every day. Every time uncertainty increases or control decreases, it's going to bother us. And so I really start out helping people understand, like, what is peace of mind? What is the actual goal here? What is happiness? It's not going to be the absence of things, like nothing bothers me. Forget it. And so really clarifying, what are we even trying to achieve and how are we going to get there? Because if you start out with the wrong goal, I mean, now what are we doing?
Right. You can't hit a target till you draw the target. So it's
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. So we have to be okay. And like, why am I not okay with the way life is? Why am I not okay? Why does it bother me that things bother me? Why do I have to be at war with that?
Yeah.
That's what I call suffering, when you're at war with the fact that life is painful.
Yeah. I heard somebody recently that said that anxiety is a disordered relationship with certainty. And it really is this idea that I want to know.
Yes.
If I do this, this is going to be the result. Is the future going to be what I want it to be? I'm really anxious about that. Some of these things I can't control, so I don't know. And then you have to ask yourself, what is that certainty that you want? I mean, most people, it's I want enough money, I want a relationship, I want a great place to live, and those are all great things, and they're all part of the sort of primal survival instinct that you were just talking about. Those are wonderful things. But can I be okay if I don't get every single thing on my checklist the way I want it?
And would I be okay if I did? Because that is not what we observe. We don't observe wealthy people being peaceful and like quite a bit more than the average person. That is not what we observe. And so that's where,
yes,
people spend a lot of time. I'm going to move to this city. I'm going to get a new relationship. I'm going to get a new job. And I always say to them, yeah, just be careful, because wherever you go, there you are.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And there your brain is. And so most of us, we're very fortunate in this country. Most of us have circumstances that are pretty darn good, right? Most of us are unlikely to experience homelessness, starvation, war. We don't have war here, knock on wood yet. And so, yeah, so a lot of people are increasingly talking about that. But we don't have existential. But see, that's what happens is I kind of look at my dog, because we have kind of a reptilian brain and then a mammalian brain and then a human cortex on top of that. And so we all kind of have a dog brain in us. And I look at them and say, I have removed really the sources of risk to their lives. I have removed them. They're not going to be attacked. There's no food insecurity. They're in a temperature controlled environment. They're not going to freeze to death. And yet they still act paranoid. And so that's like this machine that is sitting on our shoulders is programmed to worry and to look for things that might be wrong. It doesn't stop doing that, even though you solve some of its main problems. And that's why becoming wealthy and the next relationship, your mind is still going to look for where there's uncertainty. And so I kind of say to people, be careful, because all the stress and exertion that you're dealing with to try and get somewhere might only be replaced by stress and exertion of trying to keep yourself there once you get there. Now I have money and now I'm paranoid. I know people with millions of dollars that check their investment account every single day.
Right. And they're going to lose it. Mm-hmm.
Right. And right. So it's like the stress and anxiety never seems to end. Right. Because it's not actually coming from the situation. It's coming from your demand for control.
There's a lot of suffering because of that unsatisfiable mind. It seems like the people that are that are more content are more satisfied with what they have. Not that they have more or less than somebody else, but they're relatively okay with their situation. And of course, here in the United States, like you say, we're I'm going to just say this word, spoiled in a sense compared to, we're living better than 99.99% of recorded history. And yet there's a lot of turmoil and dissatisfaction, fear, people on heavy medications. Now my daughter works, she's a doctor. She works she's in her residency, and she said that almost every single patient that comes in is on medication, because psychiatric medication.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She goes, almost all of them, to varying degrees. It might be a mild dose of Lexapro or something like that, but she goes, almost all of them, because they have to do a history of what they're taking.
Right.
They're not in for those reasons. They're in for a gallbladder removal or something. But and so there's a lot of now, I don't know how much of it is necessary for these people to take, how much of it is being pushed by, that whole machine snowball of, so it's hard to say, but that being said, there's a lot of it here, which tells me that people feel they need it or that they want it.
Well, it also gets pushed. I was having trouble sleeping and I went to my doctor, and they tried to push Lexapro. They said, every therapist I see is on Lexapro. You need Lexapro. And I said, okay, but I meditate a lot. And I know anxiety. I've suffered from anxiety. I really don't think it's that. And just kept coming with the Lexapro. And then, so I'm like, okay, I'll trust you. And so I started taking it. Of course, it didn't change anything. Turns out I had a much more mundane problem. I sleep in a bed with another human and 3 dogs that never stop moving. So it turns out I went down to the basement, sleep like a baby when there's no dogs getting up. And so it turns out I'm just kind of a little bit of a light sleeper a lot of the time. And so I put the Lexapro in the trash, and no, I didn't need Lexapro. And so the industry kind of pushes it. But I want to come back to something you said real quick, where you said some people seem to be in this insatiable mind, and then other people seem to calm down. And today we're talking about the issues of therapy. that's part of the issues that I see in the treatments and maybe the therapists too. There is a part of our mind that is insatiable. There are other parts of our mind that are not.
Mm-hmm.
And so trying to get the insatiable part of our mind to be satiated is a fool's errand. And that's what people who aren't achieving it are trying to do. And so a treatment would need to be able to show them where the satisfied part of their mind is. And more than just show them, the therapist needs to be able to do that themselves. Otherwise, you have a ski instructor who doesn't know how to ski trying to teach someone how to ski. That's not really going to work well. And so the therapist needs to already have that capability and say, I have, and that's why I don't think therapists get enough respect, maybe due to the low efficacy numbers, but it's like our heart mind. I kind of combine those words because I don't differentiate much between heart and mind anymore. Is part of the treatment. Like, why are we not a doctor? Well, because it would be really easy if people come in and I could just diagnose them and I'd say, okay, your problem is this. You were traumatized and you need to do, here's the thing, now go do them and come back in a few weeks and let me know how that's going. And hey, did you do your things? Yeah, kind of. That's not what we're doing in therapy. And so we would need to be able to show someone, here's where your mind can go when it needs relief. Do you know that there's a stable part of your mind? And I have found that in myself, and I will now show you where it is for you. And I know various methods to help you do that. And if this method doesn't work for you, then we'll try this method. And a lot of therapists have not yet achieved that. And so that's one of the challenges of therapy, is that you can only bring people kind of along as far as you've gone. You can't, it's really going to be difficult for you to bring them past.
Also, a lot of people go into therapy to heal themselves in a way. They're probably aware of it, or they might not be. But how healed are you before you start trying to help somebody else? And then there's also these techniques that you're talking about. I don't think humans learn that well from just information and talking. I think they have to have
insight is totally inadequate.
Yeah. So
that's right.
Unless there's some kind of experiential thing, I don't think we learn. It's like I could study the guitar and look at scales and do all that, but until I pick one up and play, I'm not going to ever be a guitar player. And that's the same as being a human being. Like I think maybe I talked to you about this. I used to be afraid of heights when I was a kid. I don't know if I mentioned that.
I don't remember that.
Not like terrified, but I didn't like it. And I sort of traced it back to seeing a painter fall off a ladder when I was a kid, and it freaked me out.
You did tell me about this, actually. Yeah, you did. Mm-hmm.
And then I had to, as I got older. I didn't have to, but I wanted to. I said, I'm going to climb a ladder. And so I had to practice. I started going up 2 rungs, then 3, and then and holding on to the sides, like gripping it with, really afraid, but I did it anyways. So I had the experience to see that nothing was going to happen.
Here, let me ask you a question about that, though.
Yeah.
When you did it and had a different experience of it, do you remember having like a meta moment, a metacognition moment where you realized, wow, I can do it? I just had a very different experience. Did that arise in your mind? Do you remember?
Yes. And I actually
did.
Yeah, and I actually had a lot of pride. I felt really, really good about myself that I had the, I guess you'd call it courage to try and to, accomplish it. It was a big thing for me at the time, and I thought, I'm not going to be a guy that's afraid to go up a ladder. I don't want to be that guy. So maybe there was some ego in there, a little pride.
Identity updated a little bit.
Yeah. But I had to have the experience. I mean, I could have talked about it and told the story of the painter falling. I'm not doing that.
Right.
And it's interesting because I'll be a little client here for a second. My mother was a very afraid person. Really, really afraid of the world. Her worldview was it's a hostile universe and you need to constantly be vigilant to protect yourself from bad things happening. That was her worldview. So obviously I picked some of that up.
Well, yeah, you cannot. I mean,
Yeah.
there's
And
so much programming going on.
I mean, some of the things that she was afraid of, to, even as a little kid, I went, well, that doesn't seem right, And
Right.
she wasn't debilitated. I mean, she functioned, she did all the things,
Sure.
but she was afraid.
And so that became an internal model, right? We talk about core laws, right? What
Yeah.
laws? Because we're largely unconscious beings, which is another reason therapy is very difficult. We can't see what's going on. If we could see it and update it, it would be a lot easier. But oftentimes things are hiding in the unconscious mind, and so we spend a lot of time in therapy trying to uncover, what did your mind learn? People are not safe. The world is not safe. I can't, emotions are bad. Emotions will get you banished, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
really difficult to be a parent, right? Because even if
Hmm.
a kid starts to cry or throw a
Yeah.
tantrum, you say, go to your room. And what did you just teach the kid, right? The kid just learned it, emotional upheavals get me banished, get me abandoned.
Right.
Okay, well then you find out 30 years later, they're like, I don't really feel emotions and I don't experience them. My mind just keeps them repressed. Right. What did you learn? I learned that emotions get me abandoned. Okay, well, we need to update. And you just actually, your latter experience is actually the perfect example of an update. You have to have a new experience, and you have to realize you've had a new experience and allow that prior to update. I'm not this scared person who can't climb ladders. That is not going to be my identity. And I've proven that to myself today. And so that can fall apart a little bit in the therapy office, where we're not just searching for insight. Insight is 2%. We are driving a new experience right now in this moment. And then the therapist needs to say, do you notice that you're having a new experience? And what does that mean about you? And if that meta processing doesn't occur, the rewiring does not occur.
Yeah.
So it's not just a new experience. I mean, you think about how difficult it is to be a therapist. You have to help someone generate a new experience and then call that new experience to mind and update, update, update. And if any of those processes get interrupted, there will not be a sound update.
I guess that's why it's so difficult to make progress with certain people, and some of the beliefs that people have are they that's the thing that gets in the way of learning to not have those beliefs, like the belief that nobody, people aren't safe. How long does that take to create a feeling of safety with a therapist if you've never felt that way? It may
Well,
be.
you're actually hitting on a huge problem. It may be the primary problem. What neuroscience is telling us now is that there are really, that the mind is locked in what they call its priors. And a lot of therapy is, how do we update this very intractable pattern? We must return plasticity or cognitive flexibility to the mind. And we have only found really two things that do that well: flow states and psychedelics. Psychedelic efficacy is approaching 80, 90%, because we first open the mind to and get some flexibility, plasticity, and then insight. Insight without openness does nothing. It doesn't land in the brain. The priors do not get updated. And openness without insight, now you're just, if you're just a high school kid dropping acid, there's no insight following it. And so it's not really going to do anything for you, really. I mean, it might show you different things about your mind and have a beautiful connected experience. Sure, you can have those things, but that needs to be integrated. And so a lot of therapists and myself will try to help people learn to meditate a little bit. Like, you have to get into a flow state, and it's kind of interesting, because if you look at in the Buddhist tradition of meditation, it's shamatha vipassana, calm abiding, get in a flow state. You don't need to be doing something interesting. You don't need to be in nature. Just sit down and get yourself as close to a flow state as you can. And then do vipassana, which is insight meditation. Now fill your mind with insight. Well, that's what therapy needs to be. we have a lot of trauma treatments. And if you look at them, why are they working? They are helping people kind of get into a flowy like state and then having a new experience, which is the insight that updates that. But that's where if you aren't helping people be in some kind of flow state, you're banging against priors that are not available for update, and you will get nowhere. You can do therapy for years and nothing's going to happen. And I don't think a lot of therapists know about that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I just interviewed a woman who does a lot of somatic work, and she was saying how, like, she'll be talking about something with someone and she'll notice like their eyes getting moist. And so she'll stop the talking part, or she'll point out that's going on, that she's seeing a physical thing, or maybe, maybe their foot is going crazy, or,
right.
There's a nervous reaction. And so, the body tells you certain things that the mind won't do, or the mind can't do yet. And it's really, and then there's a lot of these therapies that involve actual physical work with the body. I mean, meditation's sort of the most subtle because it's kind of personal. And but then there's what would you call it? I want to say truth is not the right word. Maybe it isn't truth, but things like, body work that release emotion, EMDR. There's a lot of different types of modalities that can get people to open up in a way that they can't when they're just thinking.
And that's the issue is, another big challenge in the therapeutic arena, and one that it's probably the mistake I make most, is the therapist unknowingly colludes with the defense mechanism. And so just as that other therapist was saying, like, people talk, they think over their emotions, they talk over their emotions. It's like, if I just keep my brain running, I won't have to experience this. And so I often have to stop people and say, I want you to kind of shut up right now. Like, I have good rapport with my clients, so I can say, like, be quiet, please. Like, what's going on with you? Like, get into your body right now and tell me what's going on. And so, because if you just let them talk, you're now colluding with their defense mechanism, and that is very harmful to them, or at least it's not so much harmful, it's just not helpful, right? It's what they've always done. But with respect to trauma being stored in the body, there's a major neuroscience paper coming out soon from, I know Carl Friston. He's like kind of the world's leading neuroscientist. I think he's been cited 350,000 times or some crazy number. And there's a pre-release on the web, and it's called "The Body Does Not Keep the Score." And it's kind of a cheeky title. I think they're getting some attention there. We know the body is affected by trauma. But what they're finding is that it's not that the body is continuing to send trauma signals. It's that the mind is stuck in its priors and says, those signals mean I'm now unsafe. I'm currently unsafe. No, they don't. They're effectively a memory of the trauma. And so healing from the trauma, whatever that word healing really means, implies not so much stopping the body, it's stopping the mind from interpreting those signals coming from the body as to mean I am currently unsafe. Because the body signals don't necessarily stop. They still come. And I tell people, I just had it, I was camping this past weekend, and a dog from another camp ran up to me, and I immediately covered my face, because I got attacked by a German Shepherd when I was 12, I think. Yeah. And I could still see his teeth in my face, right?
Yes.
And so that reaction is never going away, nor do I really want it to. It's trying to protect me, right? But in that moment, and then I could immediately calm myself down, because the person said, you're safe. He just does that. He's never bitten anybody. He's not going to bite you. And so my mind can say, okay, I'm actually safe right now. And so there's a lot of neuroscience coming out around these predictive priors and understanding what that means therapeutically. It really is about updating the mind and how it interprets and sees itself and how it, the world, and how it relates to all of it.
And the other part of it too, a realization I think that is very helpful is some people are very terrified, I'm going to use that word, of ambiguity. And it's a real, that is part of life. It's a big part of it. Irony, dichotomy, ambiguity, and certainty is not, like I was mentioning earlier. And so accepting the fact that is going to be part of existence. That's why the whole yin yang thing is a thing. And that, and a lot of sort of people in power try to play on the fact that they have the answer. And the answer is mostly get rid of the bad things, and then we'll all have good things. Mm-hmm. And then here's the list of the bad things we need to get rid of, and here's the way we're going to do it. And that is a comfort to somebody who is afraid of not knowing, or of not being able to see the fact that there's two ways. I mean, it's a very, once you sort of realize that, or somebody talks about it, you go, oh, okay, well, maybe discomfort exists because comfort exists, and they can't exist without each other. The concepts have to have their opposites. So that is like that is a thing. I mean, daylight, sunlight can't exist. If it was just that, we wouldn't know that's what it was. We need nighttime and darkness to know that. And most people are very fine with that.
Sure.
I'm so mad because it gets dark every night.
Right.
I mean, no one would say that.
It's not really solvable.
No. Like, where you going to move to the sun? You'll burn up.
Right. You're getting mad that the sun's coming up tomorrow.
Yeah. But that's true of everything, all the way down the line. You just, the nicest people in the world can be real assholes.
Right.
The biggest assholes in the world can be incredibly kind at times.
Right. But I think that comes back to, again, there's a part of our mind, that I label the ego function, protective part of our mind, that absolutely hates uncertainty and will never accept it. It will always strive for more control, more money.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's the question is, where is the part of our mind that is okay with external uncertainty? And that's what I say to people. When you don't have internal certainty, you seek it outside and you can't find it. And so that's where I'm like, if people are willing to do the work, let's find and people hear me and say like, oh, I guess I shouldn't try to make more money. No, make as much as you possibly can, right? Improve your relationships, try to drive certainty into your life as much as you can, while also acknowledging and realizing that the final ultimate certainty is going to be found internally. And where is that? Where is the part of me that knows no matter what occurs out here, I can handle it and I will be okay? Mm-hmm. And if you don't know where that is, and people really challenge me, I encourage this in the office. I'm like, please do not accept anything I'm suggesting to you. And they'll say, okay, what if your kid dies? They usually, strangely, always go to that. Yeah, and I said,
kind of the worst thing that could happen.
The worst possible thing, and you're going to be happy. Mm-hmm. Right? And I said, no, I can guarantee you, if a police officer comes to my door and says, unfortunately, Mr. DeNicholas, I just came from a bad car accident. I will be over in the fetal position in the corner for a few weeks. I will probably not eat or sleep for a month or two, maybe 3. I might need a little therapy. I will probably cry maybe a little bit every day for the rest of my life.
Right.
And you know what? I'm okay with that. I have worked very hard to accept that life is painful. And there's a part of me that says, I'm all right. I'm all right being in pain. And I'm not challenging reality or karma or whatever you want to call it, and like, yeah, let me bring this into my reality, because that's a terrible reality. And I've helped people whose children have passed away and other loved ones. But the question is, can I find a place in my mind and heart that is okay with pain, and realize that that doesn't have to take over my whole life? You can.
Those kinds of things are so, so traumatic, and they do live in you. The expression "time heals all wounds." No, it doesn't.
Absolutely not.
No, of course it doesn't.
Are you over it yet? No, I'm not getting over this. What do you?
Right. Yeah, get it together, man. Get over it. It's been, 5 years.
What does that even mean? Get over it. I'm not getting over this.
It means don't feel it, and don't relive it, and relive it, and have regret, and have, what all the things that come with those kinds of things. But, there's always scar tissue with an injury, whether it's physical or emotional. So that is another unrealistic belief. And I hate that expression, time heals all wounds. It may lessen it if you're handling it in a certain way. But those super traumatic things will never be something that you'll never be the same.
You'll never be the same.
And what does that mean? And there's also, I suppose, I've experienced it with things that have happened in my life, that I'm able to help somebody else navigate that if it happens to them. And that's a big part of the whole thing too. That idea of being able to be of service to another person who's struggling and suffering and feeling like it's over. I'll never
never be happy again.
Yeah.
But that's because you've had that experience and you've successfully transcended it to some degree, right? To say transcend or integrated it into your psyche and your heart and your life. This is a part of me now. And that's okay.
Right. And it's because other people help me.
Right. And that's the therapeutic environment, right?
Yeah.
Is because we learn. That's what, a lot of people are talking about AI, and is AI going to replace therapists? And I said, it'll replace some therapists. And I think people will try to have it replace a therapist, but really high quality, hardcore therapy, it cannot do, because the relationship here, you don't just need information, you need a model. And the relationship is front and center in the therapeutic environment. And so they say, well, what's the difference between you and a computer? Well, I am actually having the experience of caring about you right now. The machine is not. It does not care about you. It does not have the capability of caring, because they're debating, is it conscious? No, it's not conscious. And we know, and it's an interesting question, because, it can't really be proven either way. Because actually, I can't prove to you that I'm conscious right now. How would I do that, right? And neuroscience is really struggling with that, because now we have computers passing what's called the Turing test, which we thought that was going to be the way we could tell if something was conscious, but now, and so it really comes down to, we learn how to be by attaching to a healthy mind that knows how to be, how to emote, how to experience the intensity of human life without being overwhelmed by it. And that's why I think it's very difficult to be a good therapist. It's a big ask, because it's so my heart and my mind are part of the treatment. That is not easy to accept.
Yeah.
That's a lot of responsibility, and you have to show up. We go through our own things in life, difficulties, and it doesn't matter. You still have to show up today being a very healthy. Talk about how being a therapist has helped me grow. How do I, when I'm going through things myself, I still have to show up and be as healthy a mind and heart as I can possibly be in front of this person. And to do that, I have to be very skilled, not to bypass or compartmentalize, but to really find my own ground and be able to stay there while my own emotional upheavals are occurring.
Yeah.
And you have to do that. If it's bad enough, of course, you call everybody and say, I need to cancel. I've had a really terrible thing happen here and I can't see you today. And maybe I need a week or two off because something really bad happened to me. But more often than not, you have a bad argument with a friend or your partner or things aren't going well in your home, or you find out somebody's sick and might die. And yeah, you got to show up and be completely present and stable in your own mind and heart for this person. That is not easy to do, but you grow quickly if you can, But it's a huge ask to be a therapist, I think.
Yeah, it really is. It's a big calling, and it's I would imagine the end of a day, or maybe even at the end of one session with a particular difficult one, you're drained. I would imagine it would be very draining sometimes to be connected with people that are struggling, all day long. That's a rough thing. But then again, it might also be incredibly uplifting at the same time because you're helping people.
Well, you have to learn to separate pain from suffering. It's not pleasant to sit with people's pain and suffering all day. Of course, there's fatigue. Sometimes I get home, my wife is very attuned to me. And so I'll walk in the door and she takes one look at me and says, tonight's a no talking night.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're
especially
right.
when you talk all day too.
You talk all day, right? But most of the time I can talk all day and hopefully they're doing most of the talking. Sometimes I end up doing most of the talking, and that usually indicates there's a problem, something that we haven't uncovered yet if I'm doing too much of the talking. And that does happen sometimes with some clients. But it's not so much the talking, and there is fatigue, but burning out and suffering, I've really looked at a lot. And you do have to come to grips. And, studying Buddhism quite a bit has helped me, and practicing meditation. If you have not really come to grips with the human condition of suffering and faced it in yourself, you're going to get pummeled in there pretty good, I think, because clients are reminding you of how you suffer too. We all suffer in very similar ways. The flavors of ice cream are a little bit different, but it's all ice cream. And so if you have to spend a lot of time with yourself and like, what is this human suffering and what's causing it and how is it going to be alleviated? But if you actually know how to help people, there's a lot of joy in that.
Yeah.
Right. And like you said, that fulfilling piece. And but you do have to kind of become a little bit of a Jedi so that you don't bring this stuff home with you. And I've worked very hard on that. And I've looked at burnout, and I see therapists burning out. And I've learned about, emotional enmeshment and like empathic distress versus compassion. Those are very different things.
Yes.
And so how do I not fall into empathic distress and where their suffering now becomes mine? You have to connect with them. You can't sit there with your clipboard. Otherwise, you're doing to them what so many others have done to them. I'm not going to join you in this. Few people are shocked to learn, or some people are shocked to learn that I cry probably every day in the office with my clients. I am not going to sit here coldly. Now, obviously, I can manage myself. I don't cry first, and I don't cry harder than they do, right? But I'm going to join them. I feel your pain. I'm not going to make it my own, but I am with you. We're going to go skiing together, and I'm going to help you separate pain from suffering. How can you experience this without suffering? Are we okay here?
Mm-hmm.
Can you allow yourself to feel this? And I'll say, I feel this too. Can you see, like, yeah, this is affecting me too. Are we okay here?
Mm-hmm.
And that'll be tiring, but it's not gonna, those are actually the best moments in therapy because you can show them directly that you can experience pain without suffering over it. And that's that meta processing. Like, do you feel connected to me? Do you feel grounded in yourself? Are we okay? Yeah, I am okay. I don't like this.
Yeah, right.
And more often than not, what people say when they have that new experience, they go, this is really weird. Right? Because in the past, up until now, and it might be 50 years, pain always equaled suffering for you. You always felt alone and overwhelmed and despair and disheartenment. Let's not do that. And I actually tell them, I will not let you do that. If I see you spiraling, I am going to get you out of it.
Yeah.
I will not let you continue spiraling. I will hold this ground for us. So I want you to be brave and courageous, and let's do this together. But we're going to do it together.
Yeah, you want to pull someone out of the feeling of being a permanent victim.
Right. You have, and that's the meta processing. You have the power to change your experience of sadness, of despair, of whatever, of guilt, whatever it is. There's what's happening. And this is what I talk about in the book quite a bit. There's what's happening, and then there's your relationship to what's happening.
Yeah,
right. And really, you can't change what happens. Your mind is going to classify things as painful, right? It's like you said about duality. As soon as two experiences are different, the mind is going to say, I like that one better. So that one's more painful and that one's more pleasurable. You can't stop that from happening. But both pain and pleasure can contribute to happiness and suffering. High performing athletes love pain. And addicts struggle with pleasure. They suffer over pleasure through incessant craving. Yeah. And so both pleasure, it's not really about the pleasure and pain. It's about how your mind is relating. If you relate to pleasure through incessant craving, we call that addiction. It's not a positive experience. And if you can relate to pain as, I accept this as a part of life, and it doesn't mean there's a big problem. I don't hate it. I don't fight against it constantly. And that's what causes suffering. And so, but again, has the therapist separated pain and suffering for themselves to a significant degree? If they have not, how are they going to help someone else do that?
Whatever it takes for somebody to look at what is rather than what they want it to be, and look at it in a stark, bold way and go, all right, this is what it is. I'm not going to try to pretend that it isn't. There was I don't know what, maybe you remember this. I guess it's kind of what we're talking about, but I was listening to a meditation tape. I think it was a Buddhist guy on death, which is kind of the ultimate thing, isn't it? Birth and death. I mean, those are the two. Mm-hmm. Everything else in between is, what it is. But at the end, that's what it's going to be. And the meditation was, it was a talked through meditation, and he had me or whoever was listening think about being dead, being a decaying corpse, down to the specifics of maggots crawling through my body, eating my flesh. I just took it as me because I was listening.
Sounds like a Buddhist.
And I was like, oh my God, this is fucking I did it. I didn't do it again, but I did it the one time, but I really got a lot out of it in that, what's the fucking big deal? If this is what the end is, what's all this other stuff I'm getting so bent out of shape about? Because we're all headed there.
Right.
Even though you don't think you are, because it's never happened yet. And so even though you've seen it happen to other people, especially the older they get, but that meditation was so powerful, and it really kind of freaked me out when it was going on, because it made me, it scared me, because I knew that, but I was scared because I knew it was going to happen at some point. And I didn't want it to, at least that day.
Right.
But
that's the thing, is once you face it, and you can face it, and people say like, oh, that's so morbid. It's not, because if you really realize, like, what makes this moment, even like, see how I'm an experiential therapist. So I always want to go like, let's do it right now. Like, what makes this moment between you and I right now magical? I don't know if you and I will ever talk again. Yeah, this might be our last experience of each other, right? And you're a beautiful man. I so enjoy talking to you. And yet this moment will never occur again. And if you realize that, there's no guarantee that we're going to live another minute, right? I mean, how weird to think about. An artist I really love named Oliver Tree just died, unfortunately, in a helicopter accident. And I was talking with my wife about it because it affected me because I really respect him and the person that he was and is. Um, and I said, how weird is it that I'm talking to you right now and I could literally be 1 minute away from a massive heart attack? Like it's 10:02 my time right now. Either one of us could be dead by 10:10.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah,
Makes me
right?
laugh though because it's
Right?
true. I mean, it is true.
It's totally true.
Right.
But if you let that seep in and land, it will change how you experience today and how you relate to others. Like, really, am I going to keep these petty arguments going? Am I going to keep holding people to expectations I know they can't meet? Why would I do this? Would I continue? Would I work incessantly all day and never have a moment where I stop and look at the sky and enjoy my day and enjoy just being alive and appreciating that I got another day. And strangely enough, today is my birthday. So I'm thinking about such things.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you very much. I got up early. I went and watched. I always watch the sunrise on my birthday. And my wife joined me this morning and she said, why do you watch the sunrise? And I said, because it's a good day to remind myself, I don't know how many more of these I'm going to get.
Yeah.
And I should get up every day and watch the sunrise. I think there's been authors in the past who did that.
Makes a lot of sense.
And really appreciate. And so, but that's where, again, we're talking about therapy today. And it's like, I think the enormous pressure that is downright unreasonable. In the ideal case, a therapist is somewhat of a model. Clients are coming to us and asking us, how do I do this? Something's wrong in my approach. How do I relate to people? How do I relate to myself? How do I relate to politics and the world? And how do I do this? And if the therapist doesn't know how to do this, what then? So it's a lot of pressure. Unfair, really, unreasonable.
Yeah.
But so be it. It is what it is, right?
You picked it.
Right. We picked it, right? I mean, is it fair that the trauma doctor it's like, it's her job to save this person's life and it's on her, right? She's either going to decide that this person gets another day and based on her or his behavior and his actions in that moment, that's a hell of a lot of pressure. And you know what? Somebody needs to own that. And how wonderful that they can. And so just like that, we are holding people's minds and hearts, and how we treat them is going to have an effect on their lives, a profound effect. In both directions, positive and negative. And so it's a lot of pressure, but somebody's got to do it. But that's the thing is I tell therapists that I meet, like, if you're not working on yourself every day, and if you can't say, I actually, when people that I can't see, because I'm already seeing a family member or something like that, I say, when you interview a therapist, ask them what they do on a daily basis for their mental health.
Great question.
And if they just give you like, well, I kind of meditate in the shower and no. What are they doing every day to change, to evolve? And when's the last time they saw a therapist? Do they believe in their own profession? If they say it's been 20 years, I've never seen a therapist. Really? Wow.
That's a great question.
That's interesting. And a lot of people don't want to ask that. And therapists get,
bent out of shape, I would think.
Bent out of shape. But like, why are you asking me? Well, because your heart and mind are part of the treatment. So I want to check in on them. You're not a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, with doctors, it'd be nice if they had better bedside manner. But some of the best doctors I've had in my life were, I didn't know it at the time, but they had Asperger's, like they were on the autism spectrum.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that go into that profession that have things that make them good at that.
Right, but they're not good bedside manner.
No, you don't want to hang out with them, but
No, but they're amazing at what they do. That cannot be the case with a therapist, I don't think, because the relationship is central to the healing process.
My daughter was telling me she did a little research project with this doctor when she was in medical school, and nobody liked this guy, or very few people liked him. He was very nervous, very demanding. jumpy in the OR, not friendly, but really good at what he did. And for some reason, the two of them hit it off, and they really liked each other because of the craft. And she sort of enjoyed how nervous he was and how, abrupt. And other medical students would say to her, "Why do you like this guy?" Or "Why does he like you? He doesn't like anybody."
Right. Anybody.
She goes, "I don't know. I think I remind him of his daughter. I don't really know." Just because she would not allow herself to get flustered by the guy. She was looking at the higher purpose of what she was learning. But there were other people that she did have issues with because they were actually deliberately unkind. So it's an interesting.
She saw the light inside him shining out. It was just shining out, and other people couldn't see it.
They couldn't see it, or they didn't want to, or he made it difficult. He did make it difficult, and she thought it was amusing. She thought it was kind of funny. So that was
I love the hard cases. I really do. I love the ones that are trying to hide it, because I've worked on.
That is a challenge and a great one when you can slice through it.
Yeah, it's beaming through. It's trying. You just have to look for it a little bit with some intention. But I actually caught West Nile virus in like 2007 or 8, and was in the hospital, and they couldn't figure out what was going on. And this cold man came in and didn't even say hi, picked my chart up, looked through it. And he said, "Mr. DeNicholas, you have West Nile virus." And I said, "They tested that. It came back negative." He said, "Your next test will be positive in 3 days." Put the clipboard down and walked out. He was right. And then that guided their treatment. They're like, "Okay, now we know what's going on with you. We can help you be comfortable and get through this." Because it had gotten in my brain, and so it was a bit of a concern. But yeah, it's like I didn't need to have it. And it's like, would it have been nice if he said, "Hi, good morning"? And yeah, it would have been nice. But you know what? When other doctors couldn't figure it out, he did figure it out.
Yeah. Well, that part's great. But, what does it cost to come in and be friendly and maybe even touch your arm? "Hey, I'm so-and-so," or shake your hand, or whatever it is.
Right.
But, he has 1,000 patients. He's got 5 minutes. He's going on to the next thing. He's doing math, basically.
Right.
Yeah. It's kind of an interesting thing. My wife has done this, not a lot, but when people are being difficult with her, she hasn't done it a ton, but she's done it. She'll look at him and go, "Don't you want friends?" Basically saying you're acting like,
right.
It's kind of rude on her part, but I like it.
It's pretty aggressive, actually.
Or her other one is everything okay? Because that does put it back on the other person to go, you're a little bit of a mirror at that point.
Yeah.
And she's very, very kind.
A lot of a mirror.
Yeah. But she's very, very kind. But if somebody is really aggressively, unpleasant, she's not afraid to do that once in a while.
Yeah.
Other times she'll take it on and feel bad about herself for some reason. They must be doing that because something's wrong with me, as a lot of people do. So that's a whole other sort of field of what are some of the responses you can give to difficult people to put it back on them, but not be nasty. There's a bunch of TikToks and Instagrams and people that do this, which I find really fascinating. Like multiple sort of comeback. They're not really comebacks. I mean, they are, but they're
in a way.
They're ways of deflecting the poking at you back to the other person and putting it back on them, having to look at themselves and really maybe even justify their behavior or not justify their behavior, but you deflect it in a way that isn't. If you can do it where it isn't nasty, like the 2 examples I just gave you with my wife.
Right.
I was just thinking of something that I said once. My wife's a landscape designer, but she also has an incredible garden in the front of the house, and she's working on it all the time because it's like her passion. She loves it. She's an artist. And this guy comes by, and I was out there with her one day, and he goes, "When are you going to be done?" So I look at the guy, I go, "Would you ask Jimi Hendrix when he's going to stop playing guitar?" It was kind of shitty on my part, a little snooty. And he kind of looked at me. I go, "Well, you're asking the same question."
Right.
He just got really quiet and walked away. So hopefully he was, I don't know. I was a little bit satisfied with myself because it was
right. That was a good one.
Yeah, definitely. I gave myself some high points for that one.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the kindest way to do it. But, at the same time, he was kind of aggressive because underneath that was a judgment of, you've got a problem. You're doing this too much. Right. But his worldview is, you don't do things to do them. You do them to accomplish something, and then you're done.
Right. So he has no notion of being.
No.
Like, I'm just being. It looks like I'm doing something, but I'm actually just being. And I am resting my mind here in this beautiful space. So, yeah. But, compassion is not
for everyone.
And it's not always nice. There is a notion of wrathful compassion where, and even compassion can slide into enabling very often. If we catch someone doing something really bad, it can be okay to tackle them and put them in handcuffs and put them in prison, right? It's like, it's actually compassionate to them. Like, no, we actually need to stop you. We need to save you from you right now. Yes. And so sometimes, would a gentler approach, always go with the gentle approach as possible. But if the gentle approach isn't getting through and they're continuing to be harmful, then a more aggressive approach actually is compassionate to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you'll hear people say, the worst day of my life, the day I got arrested or whatever it is, turned out to be the best day, because that's when I started.
Right.
It's like the consequences of living, open my eyes.
Sue-Ann Piliero, a therapist I respect a lot, she talks about a concept called fierce love in the therapy office. That you have to go right at people. You have to be willing to take risks, and you have to say, you have to say what other people aren't saying to them. And that's why when you say, why is the relationship front and center in the therapeutic office? Why is it so important? Because the therapist is going to give you some pretty bad news sometimes. Like, actually, you're not seeing you're the locus of this problem in that you're telling me about. Or I even had a therapist say he had said to somebody who was exhibiting quite a bit of narcissism, like, I have to say this, like, you're being an asshole right now. And that's why we aren't friends outside of the therapy office. Is like, I have no actual self-interest here. My only interest in this interaction is your improved well-being. And so I can say, you're being an asshole, because I don't actually care that you're being an asshole. You're going to be gone in 20 minutes. You're not in my life, and you're not going to be in my life, and I'm not in your life. And so when I say you're being an asshole, you should realize I'm really actually just trying to help you. But I tried delivering that message to you in a softer way, and it's just landing nowhere. And so I just have to come out and say it to you. You're being an asshole, and you need to look at that. Why? What's going on with you that you're acting like this? And so, and you have to have the relationship to be able to do that. And I think that's, we haven't talked much about the problem of the client in the therapy office. And that's one of them is, we actually are going to create a real relationship with you so that some of the dysfunction you display outside, you're going to display in here, and then we can work with it. And so there are going to be ruptures. That's actually the most important. Someone one time felt that I had insulted a faith path, which is interesting because I also follow that faith path. So that would be weird that I'm now insulting my own faith path. And never came back and sent me an email. And I was like, actually, that would have been a really good moment. Like, hey, what you just said bothers me a lot. Great, let's talk about that. Let's help you realize that ruptures like this can happen and it's still okay. And so a lot of times people get offended by their therapist. They feel there's a rupture of some kind and they never go back. And it's like, you actually just missed the most important moment. You could have repair. And if your therapist is at all skilled, there will be a good repair. But your habit is to run away. And unfortunately, you did that with me, with your therapist. You ran away rather than staying and saying, hey, that really bothers me.
I remember saying once in therapy, I was talking about some stuff that was going badly, like a bunch of stuff. And I said to her, well, at least it can't get any worse. And she goes, yes, it can.
Of course it can.
And I was like, well, fuck you. She goes, but it can. Right. And sometimes it does.
Yeah. My worst one that people often say fuck you to me is where when they come in, they're like, things are really good. And I go, well, this too shall pass.
Yeah.
Because, they say that when it's bad, right?
Bad, right.
And I'm like, yeah, just don't let yourself go up so high because
right.
It is
right. It's like,
world.
Oh, finally I've got it, my ducks in order, and now it's going to stay
right where
way.
I want. Yeah, right. Like, no, this too shall pass.
This too, my friend says, this too shall pass, then this too shall return.
Right. Right. So, because that thing is like, oh, if you let yourself go up and you think you're going to stay there, like, no. I always love when people are pissed at the stock market, right? I'm like, well, look at the history. Did you think like we've solved it? It's never going to correct itself. Like, that's not how this goes. You're kind of mad at, like you said, about the sun. You're kind of mad that the sun's coming up tomorrow.
Things, ways of being in a society fluctuate. They breathe. So they go real quiet and they're peaceful, and then they get more energetic and maybe even violent. And then it goes, and then right now we're in one of those phases, it feels like. That can't be sustained because it's against natural laws. It has to, it'll expand and contract.
Right.
And I sort of looked at it. I was in when my son was in kindergarten, and there was like this free play time. And the teacher pointed out, she goes, well, just watch the class. You're going to see it get real quiet, almost you won't hear a pin drop, and then it'll get real noisy and real busy. And I sat there and I watched it, and it happened. It was breathing.
Interesting.
On a group level, this energy of these kids, and it was breathing and happening. And I was like, oh, well, then let's look at adults and the workplace and society and politics. This idea that we have to figure out a system to make things okay, and that there is one.
Right. I
mean, relative to certain things, temporarily, yeah, maybe, but not overall. If it's a natural law that things breathe and are born and die, then there's really not that much to worry about, because as a species, that's what we are.
Right. But how do I maintain my own well-being through that?
I love social media for the positive aspects of it, but I find out a lot of stuff on there that makes me really uncomfortable. Things that, that people are doing that are so wicked.
Do you think social media has been a net positive for us so far?
Boy, that's a tough question, because I've learned a lot of things from it that I would not have learned. But I think overall, no. I think it's misused and indulged in a way that's not very positive. But I don't think that's the fault of the medium necessarily, as it is of the way people use it.
Right.
And
it's like a gun, right? I mean, guns can protect people and they can harm people, and
And it is still pretty much in its infancy. When you think about how long it's really been around, it's not this thing that's, but there's things I miss about the way things were before it existed.
Right.
The isolation part of it, and the shortened attention span, and the lack of connection with people, I find that to be really harmful.
And I think it's helping people put the worst parts of themselves in touch with the worst parts of other selves, right? It's kind of like like driving, right? Like if we were all in a line of standing in a waiting line, a queue, right? It would be out of someone's mind to be like, well, I'm these people walked forward and this one hasn't yet, so I'm just going to get in front of them. Like, we would never do that, right? And if somebody did do that, we'd say like, hey, you're cutting in line.
Yeah.
But we do that driving all the time. And we cut people off. And why? Because I have, 4,000 pounds of metal around me. And what are you going to do? And so it's impersonal, and I can't see your face. And I think social media has then taken that, the fact that it's so anonymous.
Right.
And which I think is I think that will end up being a mistake, that we allowed such anonymity. I think you should have we should know, just like driving a car, we should know who you are, what you're doing, why you're like, where are you? What are you saying? What chaos are you, wreaking? If I'm a cynic, it's because I really have come to the conclusion that we're very intelligent, but just not very wise.
I was thinking about this. I'm going to paraphrase. It's part of a Charles Bukowski poem, which starts out with, we're all going to die, all of us. That alone should make us love one another, but it doesn't.
But it doesn't.
But
it can, right? It could, if you let that land. And that's why I say to people, if you really wanted to change that, like, wake up every morning and spend 2 minutes thinking about how much we're all suffering, that we're all going to die, we're all afraid, and let that inform, like, now set your intention. Let yourself feel that and set your intention for how you're going to treat people today. And do that for a month. 2 minutes every morning, and see if your heart doesn't start to soften toward people. See if you don't have better interactions. Don't ask people, how's it going? Or how are you? Like, look them in the eye and say, how is your day going? I started doing that a bunch of years ago, and I'll say about 10% of people say it's not good.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah, right. The other thing,
say, but then I don't know what to say. You say, I hope your day gets better. But that's it. It's not hard. What are you going to say?
I was going to say that sometimes I tell people that are struggling with whatever, with social things and relationships and things like that. I spend whatever it is, a week, 2 weeks, with everyone you meet. You have to give them a compliment, and you have to mean it.
Mm-hmm.
Really like your shirt. Could be as simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, do you have a great head of hair. That doesn't apply to you or I, but
not anymore.
Not anymore. But, and then just, come back and tell me what happens, because it's just amazing how people open up and light up when you just say something nice to them. Mm-hmm. Do you want to do it sometimes? No, but if you force yourself to do it, it really opens up a whole thing.
Yeah.
Now
that was the practice I was given, and I give it to my clients. Where I say, I want you to write down 3 things you're thankful for with your spouse or your partner, and do that for a month. And the key is you can't use the same thing twice.
Yeah. Right.
And then after about 2 or 3 weeks, they're like, I don't know what else to say. And I'm like, maybe start looking throughout the day and turn your mind to look. Fight against your mind's negativity bias, actually look for things. And then when they start looking, they're like, there's an infinite number of things. I'm like, I know.
Well, it's the focus. Yeah, it's great. Right. You said something early in the conversation that I wanted to just compliment your wife on, when she said, I guess it's a no talking evening. Mm-hmm. That is super compassionate. Like, I recognize my husband had a rough day, and I'm not going to take it on personally that he doesn't want to talk, because he really needs to not talk. I know him well enough now, and I don't feel slighted. I don't feel anything other than I want to help him. And that's a super loving and kind of funny thing to say too.
But like, you can see how I start to tear up a little bit. I do not deserve this person. Like, I cannot emphasize enough. That is one very small example of how attuned and compassionate and loving, almost to a fault. I tell her frequently, I have to be very careful not to take advantage of you, because I think you would let it happen. And I see her doing that with other people. She is it's kind of interesting because we're both Buddhists and we get a Buddhist name when we take certain vows. And it's kind of interesting because it's almost semi-random, the name that you get.
Mm-hmm.
Fascinatingly, my wife was born on Valentine's Day, and which the teacher who gave her name did not know. And her name is in English, source of love and friendship.
Oh, wow.
Born on Valentine's Day, and she exudes this constantly. She is the greatest, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen today, being my birthday. She is by far the greatest gift giver anyone has. Like everyone says, like like the thoughtfulness. And so, thank you for acknowledging that. I'll let her know, and I'll have her listen to this and watch it. And she really is an incredible being in that way. I'm very fortunate. I don't know what I did to deserve that, and I don't deserve it, but certainly it is not that way in the other direction. It is not. I have to admit that.
Well, so it's a good match.
It's a good match. She loves me for other things.
Right.
Yeah.
And
we're different.
They meet needs that she has. So
absolutely,
it works out. So that's a beautiful thing. I mean, not both people don't have to be the exact same. That seems kind of not that interesting.
No, we're running all these experiments on society, and I when I saw the advent of online dating, I said, that'll be interesting. We've never had algorithms involved in our mating. Like, I'm not sure that's good. Like, are you supposed to be matched up with kind of yourself? Like, yeah, let's get your profile and we'll match your profile. And like, is that how it's supposed to go? I think you're probably supposed to kind of meet your opposite, maybe. I mean, I can tell you in the office, in the therapy office, it is shocking how many times avoidant attachment style ends up with anxious attachment style. And those are kind of opposites.
Yeah.
And yet they end up together all the time. It's so frequent.
Yeah. I was going to say, what if you put on a guy puts on his profile, if you're a woman whose father was emotionally unavailable, I'm your guy because I'm your
guy. Right. I will you will be very comfortable. It won't be great, but you'll be comfortable because you'll know
exactly what this is.
You'll know exactly right. It's very familiar to you. But yeah. But getting back to the brain and what does the brain value? Predictability, because if the brain can predict what's coming, and that's why we stay in bad jobs, bad relationships, the brain does not give a shit about peace and happiness. It cares to survive. And that means it cares about predictability. And so that's what we're fighting. People, even though we help them have a better experience, a lot of times their mind negates the experience and discounts it. And, oh, you're only doing that. You're being nice to me because you're my therapist. It's like, no, I actually do care about you. It's not because I'm getting $100 for this. I'm, really helping them update that and letting it land that, no, it's real. And you should update. It's a better experience for you. And it's okay. And yeah, your brain is scared of a positive experience because it's different. It wants familiarity. Well, so you got to get familiar with this new experience that's much more positive.
Yeah, right.
But that's scary. That's scary too.
It is because it's unknown, and it's unknown sometimes is more comfortable. At least I know what this is.
Exactly. Yeah. It's utterly predictable. And so that doesn't produce negative emotions. I mean, a lot of times I feel like minds are kind of shouting at me, stop it with your confusing data. I'm depressed. Did you laugh at the movie you went to? Yeah. Well, where did the depression go there? Did it just magically leave? What happened there? And I can hear their mind saying, like, stop confusing me. I'm depressed. Don't you get it?
Right. That's the ambiguity part. That's like, so it isn't 24/7. It's times. Yeah. Right.
So it's just a matter of helping them through it and seeing, like, well, do you see that there's a part of your mind that continually discounts the safety of the relationship you're in? And look at it. It has this mountain of evidence that you're in a safe situation with this person, but your mind keeps pointing out these little things that aren't quite right. Isn't that interesting? Why do you think your mind is doing that? What's the core law? Humans aren't safe.
It's what a great talk this has been. I mean, to me, it's how to make therapy more successful rather than why it's not. That's really what this talk has been about for me anyway. It's just like, look, here's the obstacles, here's the pitfalls, here's the challenges, and what can I do to make this work, both on the part of the therapist and the client, and the type of therapy itself.
And I really appreciate the conversation, because I think we have to be courageous and look at what's going on and say we need to do better without taking it personally. And that's what I'm very comfortable hanging out with therapists, because we are a bunch that tend to be a little more open and vulnerable and say, yeah, that session sucked. That was not my best effort there. And we can be honest with ourselves. And I think we as an industry need to do that and say, like, what does it take? What does healing mean? And what does it require? And let's accept what the data tell us, and let's figure this out. It can be figured out. We need flow states. We need to hurry up with the psychedelics, because they are going to be a game changer. I'm quite convinced of that in terms of openness and getting us the flexibility, the plasticity in the mind. And let's update the treatments and update the therapists and have a frank conversation. You need to get to work a little bit and clean up your own mind and heart ever more, so you can be a better parent, better spouse, better therapist, better friend. Progress can always be made. And there's a lot of people driving it in that direction. And so I'm happy to be a part of that conversation now.
Well, it's a beautiful ending there.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Much appreciation for you folks listening to The Exploding Human. The website is theexplodinghuman.com. You can also listen on YouTube. That is The Exploding Human with Bob Nickman. Once again, I want to thank JOE DENICHOLAS for being on the show. Have a fantastic day. Thank you.